Please stand. We'll begin the board of work with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 14, 2023. The time being 5:30 p.m. The meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that's available on the table in the back of the room. Amy, would you please call the roll?
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Lindsay Joe. Here. Rodney King.
Here.
Glenn Tebby.
Here.
Mayor Joshua Marsh.
Present. First item on our agenda this evening, we have a guest with us. Mike Napier is from Biochem. Mr. Napier, you have your time at the podium.
Okay, do you mind if I sit down and talk? I'm not a public speaker.
No, you have to come to the mic so that it is recorded.
Thank you. I brought something for all the members that I want you to look at.
Okay,
Hand out when I'm done.
is that what I had requested you submit in advance?
Yes.
Okay.
But I am a busy man. Okay, really busy.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being here. You have your 3 minutes.
Okay. I don't know that I can get done in 3 minutes. I'll try really hard.
Mr. Napier, I will let you know when you have a minute left, and then I will let you know when your 3 minutes is concluded.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Napier. I'm a company called Biochem. I have done business with the city of Greensburg for 20 years, and I currently and personally do business with 171 other cities in Indiana. Recently, I was called down on March 9th of this year. I was called down to the wastewater plant. They were having issues. I looked at the issues. I didn't see an issue with what he thought. I saw foam covering the river or the creek or whatever goes out there where their effluent goes, and I discussed that with Zeke. I said, that's a problem. I told him to call IDEM. He said it was surfactant film, which isn't an issue, but it is. I said, if somebody from DNR or IDEM see that and you don't report it, you're in a boatload of trouble. I explained to him to call his, the reason I'm here is there's an issue with a spending of $150,000 that doesn't need to be spent. He's aware of it, he knows it's there, but he's told me he's a good friend. I asked him if he'd spend the money himself. And Zeke, I think he said,
Sir, if
no.
you address the board.
Okay, that's what happened. So anyway, that was taken care of. He wanted to speak to me in the truck. We get in the truck. For the next 10 minutes, I hear nothing but he's doing business different than Jeff Smith. He's a local contractor that has done business with the city for years. And he got rid of him because he didn't like him. They dated some girl, he got rid of him. They went on for 10 minutes, okay? I got back to, we did testing here last October. Zeke was in non-compliance on his phosphorus. We did testing under Zeke, or under Jeff, and we were doing it under Zeke. We got done, used 46% less of our product, okay? Our product costs $13,000 a load. You were spending $28,000. He's aware of it. 44 cities in Indiana use my product, okay? No other city in Indiana uses a product that you use.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, long story short is what he ended up telling me, the guy's a friend, he's not gonna change until the guy retires. I told him that there is no way the ratepayers of this city should be paying $150,000 because he's buying from a friend. Absolutely no way. I grew up, my dad died when I was young, and my mom had a hard time paying bills. You got angry because I said the thing, said, what if you spend, he spends $150 at the street, all the different departments in the city spend $150,000. You're talking about $1 million. He's not spending his own money. You're not spending your own money. I'm freaking sick and tired of this nonsense. You go to the state levels where you got mad, it's $1 million. You go, or 10 million, or 100 million. You go to federal level, we're talking billions. You know why? Because you're not spending other people's money. Now, I'll tell you what, if I'm a ratepayer in the city, and the guy, and you know it, you're part ownership in this now. I told you that. You're spending $150,000 every freaking year on a product that is not good, no one's using.
Time, sir.
And I've got a handout here. We did testing, it's the testing results. I got invoices for what you're paying, what Terre Haute and 144 other cities are paying. And Zeke is quite aware. But when you took ownership of this, Mayor, I was disappointed.
He called himself a public servant. And I
Sir,
was-
sir.
No, I'm just saying real
Mark,
quickly.
no, your time's
He's-
up.
okay.
No,
He's a public
have your
servant,
chance.
can't be
Mark,
questioned,
Mark, your time's up. Thank you, sir.
right? Can't be questioned, you're a public servant.
We show up here every month to get questioned. Thanks for coming. Have a great evening. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Real
You
quick, if I don't mind, could I ask Zeke to come up for just a moment?
Please do.
Okay. So, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things if that's possible.
Sure.
One, there was a claim that our phosphorus levels are out of compliance. Is that accurate?
That's false, we are in.
When we
Okay,
came in,
sir, sir, you
Were
had
you-
your chance.
were you in
Thank
compliance?
Mark, if you can't stop, we're gonna ask you to leave. I
will
need you to
check,
stop.
I'll send you item reports.
Okay. Just add, we're in compliance, right?
In compliance, you're welcome to check with the
Okay.
state or come down and see me anytime you want to see the numbers for yourself.
And I mentioned, I think you and I had a conversation about the chemical that Mark is referencing that might save us some money, but doing some jar tests, we were worried that this might cause us to go out of compliance for total suspended solids. Is that correct?
With the turbidity issue, yes, you have
Okay.
to always pay attention to TSS.
So we did do jar samples on it to trial it to see if it would work.
It is not
we
a good
weren't.
product.
It's what?
That's all thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next item on your agenda is the minutes from February 14, 2023. Any edits, additions, or corrections? If not, take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion made Glenn, second by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. There being no old business, we'll go directly to new business. I did talk with John and David. There wasn't a lot of update, so I saved them the trip this evening. We've received 100% construction design documents from DLZ for the fire station. So that has moved on, and now we will start sending that out to contractors. I did put in your packet, there is a list. There are 3,630 plus companies on the list that they intend to send out the information to for all the different trades. They're mostly from Indiana. There are some local and regional. They're large enough and of commercial nature. So if you would like to peruse that.
I was dumb enough to look through it, yeah. It just kept going on, and I thought, oh my gosh. Then I did stop, I wanted to do that.
So there are quite a few. That was the only update that they had, so we saved them the drive. If you have questions you'd like me to pass along, please let me know. Any questions on that at the moment? Okay. Ashley is with us this evening for Cookie Crumbles 5K, which is coming up in April. Good evening.
I'm actually sitting in for
Yeah,
Ashley.
I was going to say, you're not Ashley.
I'm not Ashley. My name's Sarah Walton. I'm a troop leader here for a troop in Decatur County. So we are here asking for permission to hold our, this will be our third annual Cookie Crumble 5K out of Rebecca Park. So I'm here to take questions, and get approval for that. So this is a fundraiser we do. It's a 5K, and we are raising money for scholarships and programming that stays in Decatur County. It's for our service unit here in Decatur County for the different troops.
This historically has used the East Side Trail. It seems to be that's the
Yeah,
case again.
Same path, same safety plan in place. So I think there's 5 crosswalks, and we'll have CPR, first aid certified. I think we're using Adams Volunteer Fire Department to help with that. And also our troop leaders are all CPR, first aid certified as well.
Chief, any concerns?
No concerns.
Board, anything? If not, take a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made by Lindsay, second by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thanks, Sarah.
One other thing. So on Sundays, I do announcements for my church, and one of the things about this day in history from March 12th was the formation of the Girl Scouts. Was it 1916?
We're
Juliet Lowe?
111th year.
Yes.
Girl Scout week this week. So thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
There you go.
That's right.
We're on it.
Up next, Kristen Williams, Communications Director for the city. She has a whole slew of items for our public safety night out. Good evening, Kristen.
Good evening. You can get us up to get all hooked up.
so in your packets, you saw a few maps for the different road closures that we're requesting tonight. I've already talked to Chief McNeely, and he said, yeah, those are good. Do you have any other feedback? Okay. So I'm up here just on behalf of Chief McNeely and Chief Sturmer and the mayor to request that these road closures happen. You'll notice that our public safety community cookouts and the invite that residents will be getting in the mail in the next month or so is up on the screens. So keep an eye on your mailboxes for those. But you'll notice a difference in our cookouts this year. They are more of a community street style, which last year we did one of those and it was on Franklin Street. We saw a huge success with that one, so we decided to go ahead and do a few of those again. So in your packets, the road closures are more of a full street closure. The red lines indicate the barricades. I've already sent the list and the maps to Mark Klosterkemper so that he has those for the street department to put up when it comes time for those events. You are all happily invited to come attend and join us as we connect with our community and our other public safety partners in the community and the county. So I'm just here tonight to ask for those street closures.
I'm fully supportive of it. Matter of fact, I did attend the one on Franklin Street last year, and it really was quite successful. It really was a real community fair. It was very nice. So I'm fully support this effort to do it in this manner. And unless there's other concerns from my colleagues, I would move to approve street closures for the 3 that are in the street. Of course, there's one that's going to be at North Park again, and closures along with that as well.
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Glenn, second by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wastewater Superintendent Zeke Smith, got a couple items for you.
Good evening, Board, Mayor. A few things on the agenda here. We're looking for some approvals. First one on the list is for the purchase of a digester transfer pump. That's the Swobie Lobaline pump. We currently have 3 of those in our pump house. One of those pumps is kind of making some noise, has a bearing that's going out of it. It's not pumping quite as well, so we're just looking to replace that. That pump is 22 years old, as well as are the other 2. So just looking to get a replacement for that pump. Hopefully when that other pump comes out, we can diagnose it from a maintenance standpoint to figure out if it's repairable or if it's something we can get fixed. But being it's of that age, I don't know if we can or not, but we will definitely investigate that. So.
I think we need to replace it.
Thank you.
A motion?
That is a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Glenn, seconded by Lindsay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item?
Awesome, thank you. The second one is this task order from Strand, looking to work with Strand on revising or redoing our 2019 local limits evaluation. This is a mandate from the state that we're kind of on the hook for to get completed yet this year. So seeking approval to work with those guys and seeing this through to the finish.
How far along are we?
Just starting. We're trying to get into the sampling, basically trying to design a sampling plan right now to figure out.
So this is outside of the other compliance thing that we have with them.
Correct. This is essentially an overall look at the pollutants that are coming in from industry. So.
And payment on that is within your budget?
Correct.
My budgeted for.
All these items are within budget. Correct.
It sounds like he worked with this company before, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Actually, they did the last one as well for us, so.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and set a motion to approve.
Thank you.
1 second.
Motion's made by Lindsay, seconded by Glenn. Any further questions? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Last one on the agenda is I'm looking to demo the house over at the old Ohio Street location where our Ohio Street lift station is located. Kind of the grander scheme of that was to purchase the property, demo the house, kind of clear that lot, and then at some point in the future, put a permanent power station on there as far as a generator, so we don't have to haul generators back and forth and whatnot. So seeking approval to get this thing torn down and that lot kind of leveled off the gravel in pursuit of our final project, which will be to have permanent power put there at some point in the future. This is only the demo of the house.
And this is within the budget.
Correct, all budgeted items.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Rodney, second by Lindsay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thanks, Zeke.
Sounds good, thanks guys.
Up next, Fire Chief Sturmer. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Board. The first thing we have is the fire apparatus. As public servants and as stewards of the taxpayer dollars, we have been looking at, for the past 3 years, the approval and purchase of an aerial device to replace our 102-foot aerial that was sold last year that was 1992 and aged out per our NFPA standards. We came back to council last year to ask for an additional $400,000 of the taxpayers' dollars because we could not afford the specs that were coming in. The trucks were just too much money. So after working with Sourcewell, which is a contracting pre-bid type of deal, we have found an apparatus that suits and meets our needs for the purchase price of $1.682175, so $1,682,175. That's less a $600,000 down payment. That $600,000 down payment is currently budgeted, $200,000 out of the general obligation bond and $6,000 out of fire cum. So with that, that leaves $1,082,175 at time of delivery. That is going to be 750 to 780 days from the date of contract signing. So with your approval, we will sign contracts tomorrow. That will start the clock for that, and then it will be 750 to 780 days from then. I have looked at a late penalty clause, and unfortunately, due to COVID and other issues, that manufacturers have now bolstered what they can do to get out of a contract and what they consider late. Our window is very narrow for what we could actually penalize them for, and I don't feel that it is worth trying to enter into a late clause. Mainly we're going to lose and we're just not doing it. One thing with the down payment of $600,000, that does go into a simple interest account like an escrow, so it is making money as the truck is being built. So that will also help delineate some funding for either additional equipment for the truck or less payment. And we will not know that obviously until it gets closer. But it will, it is projected to just obviously have it built at that $600,000 to build interest over those 750 to 780 days. The truck manufacturer is Emergency One out of Ocala, Florida. And the truck, there is a picture, there's some drawings in your packet, but it is a 95-foot mid-mount aerial device. So it has a shorter wheelbase and is able to set up safely in our downtown square area, as well as it will reach the top of or the roofs of any of our 4-story buildings or higher, which we don't currently have, but obviously future growth, this truck will be a 25 to 30-year truck. So obviously we want to, when we're doing this, we're planning for future growth, future development. Any questions?
Did I hear that the previous truck with the ladder had been retired, or is that still in
That
use?
is correct. It was taken out of service after it failed some tests, some we call it drift test. It kind of just sinks on its own. It was a 92, so there was age on it. Usually trucks are good for anywhere from 20 to 25 years. So it was actually sold as is to another department in northern Indiana already. Currently we have a 77-foot, what we call a straight stick, or just an aerial device. This one's 95 feet, so it's 25 feet longer, as well as gives us a bucket to put people in at the end of the ladder. So this replaces what really we're missing. Dr. King?
I want to thank you for looking towards the future rather than being 2 years too late.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Rodney, second by Lindsay. I have worked with the chief on the budgetary planning for this because it will be 2 budget cycles out when delivery is due, which actually works pretty well for us because it gives us more time to make up that difference. We had estimated it to be a 1.6.
Correct.
So we were pretty close, and we were thinking we would have to have half at the time. So it actually does work pretty well. It cleans up our books for this year and allows next year in preparatory work for the following year, because it is a long ways away. So motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments or questions? If not, take a motion to approve as presented.
Don being made it and Lindsay second.
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you, council.
Do we need to, sorry.
That's all right.
Do we need to encumber funds that we've already got?
No, we'll just reappropriate them. So we had, we're pulling 400 from Cume Fire for the down payment. 200 come from the 2021 GO bond. And so we have 200,000 in Cume Fire that will left as an appropriation. We'll just let those expire. They'll return to the fund, and then we'll have them in the 2026 budget. Yeah, so we don't need to, because it's so far away, we'll just let them go back and reappropriate them in the summer of 25 for summer of 26 delivery.
The next thing is scheduling for new hire interviews. The date of April 10th has been put out by a few members of the board. This is to interview for 2 immediate position, 1 upcoming position. Currently, we have 9 candidates that are going through polygraph testing. A suggestion has been made by President Kane to interview 5. 9 in one night is probably not going to happen. So we either do 5 and come back if we need more. All of them are good candidates. We do have rankings. Rankings were put out today, so we can send the top 5 once they pass their polygraph examinations. Board, I will leave that up to you on how many you want. We will make the contact of when and where to be. But we do currently have the suggested date of April 10th. In the evening, Jamie, what, 5:30? Is that going to work out for you?
If it works for everybody else.
Right. So usually you're coming from work, so just make sure you're giving you enough time. So it would be 5:30, April 10th, without any objection to that, and then I just need to know a number.
I'd suggested 5. I know we have 2 openings and then a third that will be opening. If we feel like after interviewing 5 we need to talk to more, we can schedule further interviews after that. It was just a suggestion.
I liked it, that's why I brought it up. So.
That's okay with me.
We have, again, we really need to fill 2. We have 2 immediate openings. Like I said, they can start as soon as they're able to start. And then the third is for a retiring firefighter in May. So I would like to get him approved and get everything ready to go, so we don't have to do this process necessarily again in a few months. So if 5 is a good number, then that's what we'll go with. Wonderful, thank you. The next thing on there is a personnel change memo. Again, it is a personnel matter, so it'll just stay in your memo for you to read. I do have an extra thing that's not on there. It was brought to my attention that I forgot to promote firefighter Josh Hingesbach from probationary firefighter to first class firefighter on January 31st. That was an oversight by myself. And to do that, that gets him his additional money from probationary status. So I will need an approval for that.
So moved.
Second. Been made by Rodney, second by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And I have instructed Julie to go ahead and back pay him that pay that he has deserved, so I appreciate that. The last thing I have on the list is our physicals. These are NFPA physicals, so as you know, athletes, tactical athletes, public servants of the like, we provide them a physical that meets the National Firefighters Protection Association's standard 1582, which is a health and wellness thing. This is part of our wellness plan. This physical is an in-depth physical with blood work, and then for some it is PSA as well as treadmill for EKG usages. depending on age. We have seen good results with our fitness and in doing then the medical physical. Some of our members, as I was talking to some of the board, this is the only time they see a doctor. They don't have a primary care physician. So the only time that they see a doctor is when we send them to the doctor. So this physical is a NFPA requirement, which we do try to follow as much as we can. The reason why I bring this to you, we do this yearly and have done this for since I took over as fire chief. However, this would be the first year that we've entered into a multi-year agreement, so I wanted to bring it to the board's attention. It does save us only 2%, but it is 2% savings. If we go with just a this year contract, it'll be 5% for 2024 versus 3%. Both amounts, if we do enter into this contract, are under our budget. We budget $12,600 to perform these physicals, and I believe next year will be $12,500 something, and this year is like $12,100 something. So it will not come back for an additional appropriation or anything like that. I just wanted to get your guys' feelings and thoughts on multi-year contracts. I know sometimes it can be an issue and other times it's not. So mainly a discussion point to make sure that you would feel this is a good deal for us to go ahead and enter into this. One thing is the company that provides it comes on site, so they come to City Hall and set up doctor's offices here. They come to the fire station and draw our blood, so we do not have to send them to Indianapolis. As well as there is nobody local that provides these services. We would have to take the blood work and all the physicals, exams, and treadmills and all that and try to piece those out with Decatur County Hospital or other agencies to cover all these bases. Where they come in, they bring it all, they set up 2-3 days, and we're done.
Yeah, I have no reason, the 2%, sure, that's
right.
That's
better than none. Right? Yeah.
And but the fact of the matter is that this is a company that we've dealt with, that you're quite satisfied with. So, barring any dramatic change on their part, we ought to be well satisfied the second year as well.
For sure.
So I'm supportive.
I'm supportive as well.
Thank you.
You need a motion, or you?
I believe, yeah, it would probably be best to make it, since we are going to be signing that.
I'll make a motion then that we approve the 2-year contract with, for the physicals.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Jamie, second by Lindsay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thanks.
Thank you, Board.
Street Commissioner Klostercamper with Heavy Trash Week.
Good evening. In your packet, you'll find a very brief synopsis of recommendations. I thought we'd go ahead and establish the dates for both of the heavy trash collections this year. First one being May 15th through the 19th. The second one being August 21st through the 25th. If you recall, we implemented some changes last year for the one in August due to the sheer volume and amount of material that we were dealing with during the spring. And the two big changes we made, you'll see listed, was all small items. They have to be completely bagged and placed out to the curb. You can't just string out loads after load of loose material. And most importantly, the other one is that we're going to have no demolition or construction debris collected. That includes lumber, insulation, drywall, blocks, bricks, stone, dirt, etc. And the third thing is we're trying to promote the recycling, so we want to eliminate the things where we end up with a driveway full of cardboard that could easily be disposed of normally.
That was one of the questions I had when you had that. I can't find it here right now, but the wording on that was no large items of?
No large quantities.
Large
Yeah,
quantities.
that's going to be a little bit of a judgment. You want to say none?
Well, my point is, we want to promote the recycling, I think. And so why would we even allow recyclable materials to go into that we have to pay for to go into the landfill? And that's the whole purpose of recycling, is to reduce the amount of things that are going into the landfill. So when I saw that, my thought was, why are we saying recycling? Recycling ought to be recycling, and so there could be a reason, I suppose, from experience or other people's, that I'm not thinking of, that I'm not thinking about circumstances that would, I don't know, require it, but make it necessary to provide that service. But I'm more inclined to say recycling is to be done through the recycling program and not through our trash pickup. So I don't know what my colleagues think, but or what Josh thinks, but that's my first thought when I saw it. It just didn't seem to be contradictory.
Mark, what you're thinking?
Well, I didn't want to stop somebody that comes out with a cardboard box full of heavy materials and say, well, I'm not taking it because you put it in a cardboard box.
Well, I guess
So that, that's the only reason. You notice we had pictures last year where we actually went, it looked like they had collected a year's worth of cardboard boxes from Amazon, and they had them stacked up head high, 2 stacks of them. That's the things we're trying to eliminate. In other words, they can dispose of those on a semi-weekly basis if they don't have to put them out for us to pick up and then pay the fees and the cost that we incur.
I guess I wasn't implying that somebody have something in a cardboard box or a plastic container that is beat up or torn or whatever. I thought that would be.
That's all
I didn't consider that. I was thinking more cardboard and other kinds of plastic that, bags of bottles or plastic bottles or something. I just think that would have been, that seems contradictory.
I think we have had examples where we've had the stacks of boxes, and if you just say no recyclable materials, well, then the original box, right? I think it's more about a quantity judgment, because it also consumes a large volume of space in the truck because it doesn't compact well.
Maybe just a thought, because I agree with where you're going, Glenn, but maybe we try it out with this, and then after the May dates, we can get back with Mark and see what kind of issues or concerns we're having with that to determine if we need to make changes before August. Unless, I hear what you're saying. I agree.
Is there any further questions?
I guess maybe, I'm just trying to remember, we had an issue where we had somebody cut up a camper, right, or something.
Well, that was all under the demolition debris.
Okay, that's what, I just want to make sure.
That's what
Okay.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
put a squelch on.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the fact that we'll have the large water bills, so we're going to be able to get this out. I'd like to put this out on the March bill or the April bill and the May bill, so that everybody has an opportunity to see it twice before we end up in the actual into the heavy trash week.
We'll also include the other things that we historically, electronics, tires, paint,
Right,
those
those
types
will
of
be
things.
included,
Yeah.
but I didn't put them on
These
here
are
because they're not changed. They're just the standard items we can't accept.
Is there a motion to approve the dates and continuation of these changes?
So we have
Second.
Motion made by Rodney, second by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thanks, Mark. Last item on our agenda before claims, Catherine and Craig are back with us this evening from HWC. They were here a couple months ago to chat about our downtown READI project, and we have a request to enter into the agreement, and I think Catherine's going to talk about the timeline and those types of things, but while you're pulling it up, I want to stress there is a lot of time to go for input and conversation, public and by this team and everybody yet, but the timeline is quickly approaching.
Yes.
So, good evening, Catherine.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Puckett. I'm a landscape architect with HWC. I was here in January. Since then, we've been working on kind of scoping, figuring out the priorities of this project. As with many communities that we work with in the state, streetscape list was very long, and so we had a certain budget to kind of look at and what can we fit in that budget. So we met with city administration, engineering, and Main Street folks to kind of sit down and go through those priorities and develop out this project for the READI funding that's happening this year needs to be allocated. So that's what I want to go through with you this evening, just a few exhibits. So this first exhibit is illustrating where we landed on kind of those priority blocks that are going to fit within this $4.5 million project. And that project funding is made up of READI, ARPA, local match, and then CCMG, so community crossings. So my numbers in red are kind of small, but hopefully you can see them in your packet as well. But starting at City Hall, we have the number 1, and then moving along Washington Street, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as you wrap the courthouse square. So as we met with the group here, we talked about kind of the intensity level of these blocks. So obviously not every block is going to be treated the same. So 1, 2, and 3 kind of landed as our lower intensity blocks. And then 4 and 5 around kind of completing your courthouse square are the higher intensity. So higher intensity meaning you would have bump outs or curb extensions, potentially decorative crosswalks, special paving like brick pavers, trees and grates, things like that, pedestrian furnishings, site furnishings. And then lower intensity would be more sidewalks, trees in the street lawn, just new curbs, and then asphalt pavement. So I have a couple sections to kind of just illustrate that. So this is an example of kind of that lower intensity street section. So you have sidewalk, tree lawn, by that I just mean sod with a tree planted, no grate, lighting, curb and gutter, and then the resurfacing. And then the second section starts to show you that more intensive block along your courthouse square. And as the mayor mentioned, this exercise that we've kind of been doing over the last 6 weeks was really to scope this project. We have not designed it at all. That's what we're asking you for permission to move forward with. So we will certainly continue to work with the city and Main Street and public groups or stakeholders to get kind of those final details. I know you already have a lot of different materials that have been used in your streetscapes downtown, so kind of working through the blend of those and what you want to do in these squares will be something that we'll be talking about quite a bit. So cost estimate, that was a really big part of what we've been doing the last few weeks. So we ended up drawing out an edge of pavement or drafting kind of that line, your curb line, where you're going to have bump outs where you won't. And then developing takeoffs or quantities of all the different materials that would go into the streetscape, from the asphalt to the curb and gutter, sidewalk, all those street furnishings, and came up with these different estimates. So you can see the lower intensive blocks, 1, 2, and 3 are kind of more in the range from $350,000 to $580,000. And then the higher intensive blocks get a lot more expensive as you start to add those curb extensions or bump outs like you have on the west side of the square and south side. They add inlets, more storm drainage, just more surface area that you're covering with more expensive materials. So that's where we landed on cost estimate. And then these numbers also show soft cost design fees and then construction inspection. So CCMG, because that's through NDOT, we'll have to do pay items. That can't be a lump sum. So those will have to be quantified by an inspector out during the project, measuring everything that the contractor's doing. So sometimes you can get away without inspection. In this case, you really do need it. And I can come back to this with more detailed questions. And then the schedule. So the schedule is really important here. We are looking at streetscape design. So one of the big things we need to get moving as quickly as possible would be survey. So we need full topographic survey to really work through all the detailed grading of these plans. The first major deadline that we're up against is the community crossings application, which is due at the end of July. So we're looking at putting together, getting a survey would take 6 to 8 weeks. So getting that approved as quickly as possible to get that moving, and then we would get into 30, 60, and 90% plans. So once we've submitted that in July, that tends to take about 6 months to get awarded. I know your community has submitted before last year. Sometimes it gets awarded in September. Last year it was December, so we're just kind of using that as a safeguard. And then we would bid that in January with construction going throughout next year. We did note your Tree City Fall Festival to be sure that substantial completion can happen before that, so you can still make sure to have that festival, even if we're waiting on kind of last minute things like light poles to be installed. There's still ways to kind of work around that. So, and then construction would be done at the end of next year. So a few considerations. HWC has done a lot of streetscape work in communities like yours, and things you have around the downtown would be local small businesses who are kind of thriving when they're allowed to be open. So taking away their access is a huge deal. So there's a lot of different techniques we'll work closely with you on how to keep businesses open. We require that contractors allow access for pedestrians to come in and out of storefronts at all times. So they usually end up kind of building these bridges almost, or boardwalks, so when they're tearing up the street, people can still come in and out of those businesses. The other thing that we've done is worked with local marketing groups. This one is in Lafayette, just kind of developing signage that really explains, hey, we're open even though this looks like a construction zone. Please continue to come down here and shop at these stores. So I think there's some ways that that's a concern that we can work closely with you on. The other thing I just wanted to point out, this is down in New Albany. We did a streetscape project down there, and they have a Harvest Homecoming Festival. That's a huge deal for them. And they needed to make sure to still be able to have that festival while construction was happening. So we were able to get them to substantial completion with that contractor, barricade off certain locations that people needed that weren't quite safe yet. But it is possible. I guess that's the point. I wanted to show this slide that we've dealt with that before. It just takes a lot of communication with the contractor and kind of prioritizing what we want them to get done before that event and then what they can finish afterwards. So with that, I know in your packets you had a kind of full design proposal, which lays out all the different sub-consultants and all the different design aspects that would go into the streetscape. And so I just wanted to kind of walk you through how we got to where we are now, and how we came up with the estimate and the design fee, and then see if you have any questions I can answer.
Lyle may be thinking of questions. Obviously, we've been talking about this for quite a while. It was, HWC was the Accelerate Rural Indiana READI Region's consultant on that as well. This was a project that was identified in that, and when we were awarded funds to go towards a project like this. As I've been saying to you, since ARPA dollars become available, kind of holding on to those so that we can do our one-to-one match of READI. This project is our big READI project as far as dollar amounts, and I think community impact as well. So in your sort of memo, I've provided you the READI breakdown, the ARPA dollars, the state CCMG, which takes the outside local money well over $2.5 million, well really $3.5 million, meaning that this project becomes very affordable for us. And I know with the west side of the square having been done in 2010, I think 2010, there's been a lot of discussion about when the other sides are going to be done. I think this is a good opportunity for us to do this with a lot of money that is our money, but isn't local dollars. And with the matching money for CCMG, which is already budgeted as well. You had talked about the lower intensities. Blocks 1 and 2 and kind of half of 3 are kind of simply a CCMG project. If we were going to do that project next year, unrelated to any of this, it would be that level anyway. It doesn't really change anything. And all of the funds, should you approve this design project, which I hope you do, are already budgeted in 2023. So we don't anticipate an additional appropriation. We don't anticipate anything. The only thing with that is we have to do something with our second tranche of ARPA funds. We have to assign them. Yeah, so that may come up in a few. Once this is approved, we will do that, but these dollars can be used for that without question. Questions for Ken? And Craig Ludeman's here with us as well from HWC, who's been with us since day one of READI.
I think something to add on just your point about dividing it up, CCMG and ARPA as separate projects. When we're doing them together with 5 blocks like this, some of the hope there is that you might get some efficiency in your bids. Contractors will look at that and say that that's a bigger project to fight off, and bigger quantities, maybe better pricing, which is always good right now considering inflation and all. And then just efficiency of the schedule too. And then the other thing to think about is that CCMG doesn't pay for things like decorative lighting. It's really more asphalt, sidewalks, kind of those basics. And so even the blocks that are lower intensity have light poles proposed and things like that. So by kind of combining these two, you're able to get those CCMG type paid for materials as well as those decorative things that you're wanting.
I know that I think I read here that, and other people have been involved with this, Main Street, for example, and others, it will be critical to make sure that access as much as possible and as safely as it can be done for the local businesses on, well, you got three sides of it, or two sides of it going at one time. So, as well as just access to the courthouse, which should be critical, because that's the main entrance there on the north side. So, and I'm sure you've thought about that and you'll be thinking about that more. I just want to emphasize that that's going to be and I'm assuming Main Street's already been in discussions with shop owners and others.
We've been talking about this some, and I've been at public speaking events where it's been asked about. There hasn't been a sit-down roundtable meeting yet because Catherine and her team haven't gotten to design. So that comes.
And survey has to happen. That's part of that. That'll be part of that, right?
Yes, but to your point, we've done a lot of streetscape, as I mentioned earlier. When we have projects like this that cover so many blocks, there's a lot of discussion with the contractor where they can't go through and just rip up everything at the same time. So there's a lot of thought into, if we're gonna have this side of the street, then where's the parking gonna be for those businesses on this side? And then when they're done there, they need to make sure that's all cleaned up and buttoned up and move on to the next section, because you can't just tear apart the whole downtown all at once. So there's a lot of thought into kind of that schedule with the contractor and what their limitations.
Quick question, and you mentioned parking. We have an issue now where we don't have enough parking because of employees using the parking spaces around the square. So when the construction starts, then what? I mean, we have time to plan, but I'm just posing that question for the future. Then what?
Absolutely. Construction always just kind of tightens up those issues that are already there and just makes them a little worse. So some of the ways we've dealt with that, as I mentioned, that marketing group that we worked with closely, I think maybe your communications person is so talented, she might be able to help with some of this too, but we had a website for that, and it was just constantly updated with, okay, now construction's going to be here for the next 4 weeks, and so your additional parking, we recommend that you go to this block and this location. It's just kind of that constant communication of letting people know on your social media, on your websites, not only the people, the business owners, but also the people who are shopping, where to go, and to please don't stop shopping downtown just because we're under construction for 6 months. So, excellent point. Yeah.
I think this will affect the 4th of July parade route as well. I know that's probably a minor detail, but.
It's not this year, right, so it's for construction of 2024.
Okay.
So we have time to work with them as well. Good question. Great thought.
Reference stormwater improvements, so what are we thinking?
So as Catherine had talked about, it does include drainage, which downtown is very limited on, and then that's also part of the reason for the Washington Street across from First Baptist Church there at Jackson. It becomes very, very overwhelmed, and so we would like to see improvements made to that intersection as well. So there would be additional stormwater work. Part of the dreaming session we had also included kind of a major stormwater sewer line behind the church and the alley, but that just became unbudgetarily possible at this time.
It definitely needs to function though with drainage. You can't just make everything pretty above and then not make it work. So that'll be a big part of it.
And we have some flexibility on that too, Jamie, to work through that as we go. I just want to say, here it is. We can tweak that as we get closer and better numbers. Any other questions for Catherine? If not, we'll take a motion to approve this agreement with HWC as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Lindsay, seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few minutes at the next meeting. You're first next time. Approval of the claims. Any comments, edits, questions? Okay. Take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Jamie. Is there a second? Second by Lindsay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? One quick update that does apply to the Board of Works. We continue to meet with a group, a cross-section of employees for our Health Insurance Committee. Lindsay is serving as your representative on that. I don't know, we had a meeting with Dunn & Associates last week. Do you want to, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have any comments you want to make just as an update?
So, as someone in healthcare, I'm definitely learning a lot about insurance, the insurance landscape. Very broad topic, very in-depth, but lots of good discussion, and I think it's going to bring in a lot of good discussion and decisions, so.
No, I didn't get to make last week's meeting, but the previous month's meeting, it was nice to see some new representation from the different departments. It's not department heads, it's different leaders in the different departments, so it's nice to have some new voices also to contribute to these decisions.
Anything else, Board? If not, take a motion to adjourn.
Sir,
So moved.
can I ask for
Motion's
30,
been made.
can I ask for 30 seconds?
No. All those in favor signify by saying
Real
aye.
quick, Zeke,
Those
you are
opposed?
non-compliant when I came in October. No, listen, this is $150,000.
This is not the place for that.
Well, I will talk to you.
So, hold on.
Yes.
No, no, no.
I have, yes. Oh, yeah.